And politics is cutting across board. On the Standard, you're being told Baba while you are away. And you do remember this is a trend that happened a few years ago, but now we are revisiting that. It's quite hilarious, actually. And you're being told about the top ODM leaders that did take a flight to visit, an Emirates flight to visit ODM leader Raila Odinga. And we're told here they were briefing him on the going-ons politically as he was away undergoing treatment. And we're told, will the political chessboard change or will everything wait for his return? The picture right here is what you have seen trending across social media platforms for the past 24 hours, actually. And Suna East MP Junet Mohammed is right there, and Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho, when they left Nairobi for Dubai aboard the private Airbus A318. And of course, it's quite interesting how lavish it is. It was not lost on a lot of you who were commenting on it on social media. And if you want more details on this one, you can take a look at page 4 of the Standard this morning. They're pictured right there with the ODM leader Raila Odinga, and we are being told about the state of the handshake, and basically that is what is the object of conversation. And a statement from Ida Odinga, Raila Odinga's wife, was also featured here. She says they decided that he should stay a little longer in Dubai to gain full recovery and avoid visitation, which is quite customary when it comes to Kenya. And you know how we handle our sick. We want to visit them and ensure they're well, but sometimes it is counterproductive. So I suppose that was the thinking behind, as has been stated here by Ida Odinga, the wife to Raila Odinga, ODM leader. Now we have here another story that is also political. It's also on the front page of the Standard at the very top. We're told about Uhuru's fury with Senate stalemate. Now, President gives state leadership a tongue lashing, and this is I think the upteenth time the President is calling people to order, the people under him. We're told the President gives state leadership a tongue lashing over failure to adopt a new basis for the sharing of revenues among counties. And this is a particularly thorny problem, given that the counties are experiencing the ripple effect of COVID-19, and it's spread in certain areas quite more than others. And obviously, you know, the counties were experiencing much bigger economic problems even before COVID-19 piled on. And of course, when you look at the gainers and the losers, and that is a list that has been given on page 5 of the Standard, you understand why there's a bit of a laxity. And this has come even hot on the heels of some complaints from some leaders saying that it should not be a win-lose, either a win-win, but not, some counties should not win while others lose. So this is, I think, just a developing story from yesterday, where we had that element being highlighted in the press yet again. Let's take a look at the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. We're told Mount Kenya charts Uhuru's succession. Now, this has to be a meeting that saw the presence of Mr. Peter Kenneth noted on Wednesday. And now the question right here, according to the Daily Nation, is the Gatanga MP being groomed for bigger things? We do know that Uhuru Kenyatta is serving his last term, and obviously the eyes are trained on anyone who could possibly fit in his shoes, particularly from the central parts of the country. So that's quite interesting that this is the speculation that we are experiencing right now. So it's quite interesting that this is the political angle that we have gone through. But that story about Baba while you are away is not lost also on the Daily Nation. You can see the plane right here. A jet for Baba's return has been put here. The picture of Junet Mohammed and Hassan Ali Joho right there on the front page as they pose there while they were briefing the president after, or probably before they were briefing the former prime minister right there, who has been ill and going through treatment in Dubai. A jet for Baba is the headline they are going with. I can see that we have Stella Agara on Zoom joining us, and she'll be joining us shortly just to go through these headlines. She might, as we set her up in a short while. But the nation has gone a step further to give us a blueprint of that particular jet. The schematic diagram is right there on page 3, just pointing to the fact that there was a lot of curiosity and awe as to what that jet is like, and given that picture that is on the Standard this morning, just to explain to you what it is like, the extent of it. There's a VIP bathroom, the private VIP bathroom, and then there's a story obviously on page 3 telling us about the full fit Raila all set for a grand return aboard this luxury aircraft. Joho Anjunet board private jet on to Dubai to see ODM chief, who is expected back this weekend. So if you're expecting him back this weekend, is the time to look out for his return. But then that story on Mount Kenya politicians jostling for kingpin tag ahead of 2022, with Gathara MP Peter Kenneth being tagged to that particular story, is on page 2 if you want to know what the plans are, or possible plans or possible forecasts for what's going to look like for central Kenya politics in 2022. Page 2 gives you a bit of an insight. But the deputy president still is making headlines. On page 2, you're told that Ruto set his eyes on top seat while training focus on clergy and youth. Now, this has to do with his outreach and the things he is doing. He's seen right here trying to rather mingling with some business people. We are told DP Ruto is shown how a dryer works by Miss Anne and Jerry when he donated items to different youth groups in Nairobi. And this is not the first time that you have seen the deputy president actually interacting with entrepreneurs and people who seem to be struggling in this time and trying to give them a helping hand. Perhaps this is the way he has chosen to go, as far as, well, sort of campaigning, or rather endearing himself to the people is concerned. Let's take a look at page 4. Developments from Kitui. We're told court declines to stop Ngilu ouster motion. Governor has told the judge that that her rights were being trampled upon. Now, this has been cut short because the court has actually ruled that it's okay for this ouster motion that is in play to go ahead. And recently, you were treated to scenes of her legal representatives being thrown out of the county assembly premises, just to show you how volatile the situation could be. And now Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu will have to actually face that particular motion. And she is just one of the many governors that have fallen under this sort of motion, as the MCAs seek to change the leadership and throw the governors out over the grievances they have with their form, or rather way of delivery. Now, Stella Agara, can you hear me? She's joining us via Zoom. She's a political analyst as well as a youth advocacy campaigner. Welcome to the show, Stella. I think, good morning, Stella. Can you hear me?
Good morning. I can hear you. I can hear you very well.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I was just talking about the governors who have been experiencing a continuous push for their ouster, and the very latest is the Kitui, Governor Charity Ngilu, and this comes hot on the heels of what's happened to Nyeri Governor Anne Waiguru and many others. There was complaint that this is turning into some sort of a trend among MCAs across the country, and now the very latest on that one is that a court has declined to stop that Ngilu ouster motion. What do you make of this in general and specific to Kitui?
I think one of the comments that I must make first is the fact that we are very lucky that our law had anticipated mischief and created mechanisms through which this process of an ouster would take place. Because I realize that there are situations where, MCAs decide just because of anything small, they will decide to go for an ouster. Yeah. Indeed, there is merit in some of the cases that we have had before. I mean, in the case of Kiambu, there was glaring evidence that there was need to do something about the situation. Right. In Kitui, we are still assessing the details of it. Now, I am torn between, because we have very few female governors in the country. we had 3 and now have 2 with the death of Laboso. And so this puts us in a very difficult situation with Ngilu. I'm basically saying, since the court has rejected attempts by Ngilu to stop the county from ejecting her, they're basically saying the process should be followed through. I'm honestly praying that she sails through, but then we must eventually also begin taking this process seriously and stop engaging, because it's costly and time consuming. We must make sure that every case that comes to the Senate eventually has merit. Every case that is allowed to proceed in the county has merit. I think it's a good thing that the MCAs have the recourse, unlike citizens who have totally been denied their right to recall, and yet it is in the Constitution. But it is a matter of wait and see. But honestly, with the few women governors we have, I would be hesitant to get rid of another female governor. But let's wait and see how this will go.
Okay, then, but then it's a matter of delivery as opposed to gender, don't you think?
Absolutely, it is first about delivery before gender, and I'm privy to a lot of data about the kind of work that Ngilu has been doing in her county, and I'm also privy to the fact that she has supported a lot of the sitting members of parliament and the county assembly representatives in getting into office. But at the end of the day, what counts for the residents of Kitui County is whether or not they are receiving the services they require from their governor. So in the end, priority is on service delivery more than the fact that she's a woman. But like I said, it's just a soft spot I have because, you know, I'm one of those proponents of the 2/3 gender principle, and every time this quota reduces, just keeps on shedding some darkness on the possibility of women's proper representation in Kenya.
Absolutely. And of course, joining the discussion regularly on the show is David Osiani, a governance expert, and we love your sentiments on this one in particular. We've had Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, previously I said Nyeri, that was a tongue slip. Having experiences this, we have seen it happening in Nakuru, and there have been sentiments that this is sort of a witch hunt as opposed to the MCAs exercising their legal right to actually ouster or impeach a governor for not delivering as they had their mandate and serving the people. So when you see this particular trend and the particular volatility that's happening in Kitui, what do you make of it, David?
Thanks, Trix, and good morning. I think there are instances when it is obviously witch hunts, when it seems the county assembly members are overreaching themselves without a particular reason. I remember, and this is one of the best examples I've given over and over again, of the Mafirifiri Mamashomasho lady in Nairobi County, who decided to say that we were kicking out the speaker because she goes on trips on her own, as we don't go. Now she has to leave, all right? Which pointed to 2 problems. Problems with the speaker, if she did not have justifiable reasons for traveling out of the country and utilize that opportunity as an avenue for making money, and pointed to the problem with the county assembly representatives, the ward representatives, who were not, you know, doing what they were there to do, which is to represent their wards and the citizens from those places, but to look for parks. Now, there have been instances when the members of county assembly were just becoming a pain, and they had to be stopped by the citizens themselves. Case in point, Makueni. The first term of Governor Kivutha Kibwana was dotted with such pain and tribulation for the gentleman. But the people said, no, we know what the problem is, and the problem is not the governor. And they confirmed that in the next election when they sent everybody home except one MCA. Now, there is a possibility also that governors sometimes also, you know, overstep their mandates or are seen to be on an acquisition mode. Yes. Which is the tragedy of country. Now, I do not know yet what the merits or lack thereof are against Governor Ngilu. But you see, Ngilu is one of the peculiar people. Ngilu is able to point to you that this was my protege, I made her. And one case in point was Cecil Mbarire. What people don't know is that Honorable Cecil Mbarire was a personal assistant to Charity Ngilu. And Charity Ngilu decided, I am going to mentor one to the end, and delivered a mentee to the national stage, which is commendable. But that said, are there questions about her leadership style? I do not know. I would like to see. Are there places where she may be accused of embezzlement or corruption? That would be unfortunate, because as Stella rightly puts it, it would be great to see many more of our ladies on the stage. However, if our ladies who get to the stage are going to be a disappointment, then the difference is similar, as if, then we should not have had them on that stage at all. So the few who have been there, I bet, have performed generally well.
Yeah.
Now, I also know that we have the tragedy of being a patrimonial society, where we are very, male-inclined. And so the African culture over time, which is now changing, has not been the culture that, gave the women prominence. That remains a reality, even in some subcultures of this country. And we hope that we are able to overcome that, so that then we see our colleagues, whether it's a governor or a parliamentarian or a CEO, just as human, because they too are capable of delivering on this mandate. After all,
right.
It is said, what a man can do, a woman can do better, except on the front line of the battle.
Okay, so when you look at the percentages, David, I'd like us to double down on this one a little bit. The number of governors that have been hoisted to this particular seat by the electorate is quite low, the percentage. And then when you look at the percentage of those being sought after by the MCAs for not delivering, it's a bit disproportional. And then when you look at delivery in general, you don't see that these particular ones were any worse than the others. So are we seeing undertones of societal misogyny?
I wouldn't call it societal misogyny, because I also remember that Waitito was sent home the other day.
Yeah.
And that was not misogynistic.
Well, that was hard to ignore, wasn't it?
I mean, there are many governors who are doing miracles out here.
Okay.
Things that you would not overlook.
Yeah.
And they're getting away with it for whatever reason. Either they are managing their MCAs very well in the pockets, or they are just charming, or whatever it is. The things that are going on in some parts of this country are ridiculous. We need redemption. So I would be asking the people of Kitui, what is this that is so terrible? It's not like we should foster the habit and culture of bad manners and let it go, and so that we spare one person because others in some part of the country are sparing another. I mean, the people of Kitui may decide that we have found a fault with Madam Governor, but we will get another female governor. I don't know whether the deputy is female. So all those are dynamics. What I hope is that in rendering their mandate, the members of county assembly from Kitui County will be absolutely objective.
Right.
And they will understand, and they need to demonstrate that they know that there are errors that will happen in leadership. So if there are errors that are forgivable, then please don't take the county back to a political problem right now.
Yes.
If there are errors that are not forgivable, I will support them in impeaching Madam Governor. Never mind, I think amongst her peers in the 47 counties, she has done quite well. She has initiated things that I guess we all read about. She has made cotton a thing, which was forgotten. Now, the chief in my location in Kanga knows very well that the uniform he wears is from Kitui, where I am glad to be married from. There was a program she started with Green Grams, which became quite big. I hope that you're successful in getting market, because I remember going down there and everyone was having green grams.
Yes.
Innovative ways of ensuring that the citizen, the common Mwananchi, can have some bread and butter on their tables every other day, as opposed to, pauperizing that population. And so if there is something gross, a gross offense, then by all means, MCAs, do your job. But in case these are things that are just as common as they are to you who are MCAs, who are committing the same offenses, and you are hiding because there is no structure of impeaching you until 2022, then please like Jesus said, do not cast that stone.
Absolutely. And the good thing is that there is a line and a number of offences that you have to commit that has been put across. We have gross violation of the Constitution. Yeah. You have to have committed a crime. You have to have abused your office. Gross misconduct is what it's termed as, and physical or mental incapacity. So it's up to the MCAs to try and prove that before the Senate or whatever committee is decided upon to go through this, if it does indeed go that far. Now let's take a look at page 6 of the Standard this morning. We're told millions of Kenyans can't pay rent. It's quite as simple as that. Buy foods as virus fever rises, and survey. This is according to a survey that has been done. We're told that 72.5 is the biggest concern. A majority of households have reported COVID-19 being their biggest worry, followed by a lack of food, which is 21.6%. And people are trying to cope in various ways. We've had a lot of them traveling up country in order to just make sure they can survive in a way that is quite cheap. But of course, this is not happening for everyone. And just rent. Rent is the very basic. To live in this city, you need to be able to pay your rent. Stella, what do you think of the government's inability to shoulder this burden for the citizenry, given that they're facing an enemy that they have previously, they cannot fight against? It's all out of their hands.
Trix, one of the reasons why the president was under pressure to open up travel outside Nairobi was because there are certain people who wanted to run away from Nairobi so that they avoid the rent situation that they were finding themselves in. And the reason why they were running away is because the government has completely refused to address the rent issue. I'm sitting in a national steering committee of an initiative that is supporting, or rather facilitating humanitarian support for citizens in Kenya as a result of the COVID situation. And one of the issues, the biggest advocacy issues we brought up at the beginning of this pandemic was the rent situation. And we were basically saying in April and May, possibly people would be able to dig into their savings. But because we don't have such a deep saving culture, we could already project that by the end of May, there are many people who may not be able to pay for their rent.
Yeah.
So it's very saddening that the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics study now shows that there are people who are actually unable to pay rent, and some have delayed. Unfortunately, landlords are also not being very kind to the tenants. Some people are very lucky to have good landlords. I have a very understanding landlord. And then some people just have, rogues for landlords. You saw Madam Boss Akode the other day fighting with a landlady who had thrown her tenant out of the house. And she didn't care. And she was saying they need to have manners on how they communicate with her. So for me, it's a very, very disturbing situation. And the reason why the government will not address it is because of the politics around it. Rent, landlords, you're basically saying you're going to be digging into the income of people who are probably, big-time political supporters of the government itself.
Right.
But then this is a conversation that must be held. It's a conversation that must be held because if people are going to stay in Nairobi and think through their business models and try and reopen their enterprises, then they will need to be able to find a creative way of hosting them in Nairobi.
Yes.
Other countries have provided support for their citizens. They provided welfare for their citizens so that the citizens can be able to continue living, not comfortably, but at least sustain their livelihoods as they figure out how to survive.
Yes.
And the government of Kenya must make a decision to deal with that.
David, on the other side, we're told on the same spread on page 7 that landlords are saying we've got loans to pay, so we have no choice. Then we had that push for banks to actually be more lenient when it comes to banks. The survey tells us 25% of those who are asked about this, only 25 of them had got some reprieve in terms of loan repayment. What do you make of this other side of the coin?
Well, this is it's a painful situation, Trix. I guarantee you that it's terrible. I've spoken to friends who have said that, they're sliding into depression and this is getting out of hand because people were laid off. There are instances where husband and wife were laid off. They find themselves back at home. There is no breadwinner because we both understand our situation.
Yeah.
I mean, 90% of the workforce in Kenya cannot be able to even save for more than 4 months of, if they were to be stopped today. 90% of Kenya's workforce. If you told them go home today, they would be waiting for that benefit, and that's all. You know, that's the situation. That's the way it is. But here are the landlords also in the same situation, only in a bigger scale.
Yeah.
Because they are saying, you know what, we understand, but if I don't do this, then I am the one who's going to have my property
You'll be the
auctioned.
homeless one now. So it's
But
the
you
same
know,
problem, but another
the thing
level.
the thing that the landlords forget is you may kick out one, but there's no guarantee you're going to find another.
Yes.
Because this is a global crisis. Globally, there is a problem. Globally, everyone is going through this. Only that there are countries that have better frameworks. Now, I remember the government at the initial stages of this problem. You know, the central bank gave a raft of measures, requested various banks to give, you know, a reprieve for those who had loans in case they default. And so I think there are landlords who may be, you know, disingenuous or just unkind, down to it. They're just unkind. The government, they cannot say it's loan. So unless they just want money, for money's sake, it's not about loans because the banks have been more lenient. But you know, the problem is when you rent a house, you get to sign at the bottom. And when we, you know, many people sign down there, it is not anticipated that a crisis such as Corona will come up. So they hold you to what you signed, what we agreed,
Yes.
the 5th. This is it. You haven't paid. I've given you time, 2 more weeks. Okay, I'm closing this house. I'd urge landlords to summon the humanness in them on this issue.
Yeah.
To imagine if these were their children or loved ones in these situations and they were experiencing these same things. But now that calls on us to have a keener look at the economic stimulus programs that have been rolled out to try and lift the burden of many Kenyans who, as is the problem globally, this is not unique or peculiar to Kenya. There's a global problem. Thousands and millions have lost jobs. Now, what are our safety net frameworks so that we are able to know in case someone like Mike or Trix or David or Stella wants to support a homeless person in Donholm?
Yes.
How are we able to identify that person, to be able to reach out to them? Now, unless we build a very responsive and legitimate safety net framework, it will be hard even for well-wishers who want to help.
To
But secondly,
reach out, yes.
what are the economic stimuli programs that target different segments of the population, and how can they be beneficiaries? I have seen Kazi Mtaani, which has just begun the other day, and that's brilliant by the government. That's great. It will give young people some money. But this problem is not peculiar to young people.
Absolutely.
The old, the middle-aged alike are in this crisis. And so Godspeed to all of us, you know, to all those who are going through this. But somehow I know we will ace it.
Okay, let's take a short break. On the other side, we take a look at the very biggest stories that have made headlines across the week. You're watching Morning Express.